Have you ever wanted something badly but never started? Have you ever told yourself that you'll begin when the timing is better? When you're more prepared, more confident, more certain, and then months pass, sometimes years, and nothing changes. Welcome to VaultWave, where every story carries a lesson that can change the way you think, live, and grow. There was a young man named Daniel. Daniel was 28 years old. He had short dark brown hair, a simple green jacket, worn leather boots, thoughtful eyes, and a habit that quietly controlled his life. Daniel was always waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for more money, waiting for more confidence, waiting for certainty. He lived in a small town surrounded by rolling hills and golden fields. Every morning, he walked past an old workshop at the edge of town. For years, Daniel dreamed of opening a furniture business. He loved working with wood. He loved creating things with his hands. But every time he thought about starting, fear appeared. What if I fail? What if nobody buys anything? What if I'm not good enough? So he waited. 1 year became 2. 2 became 4. The dream stayed exactly where it was. Inside his head. One autumn afternoon, Daniel met an older craftsman named Samuel. Samuel had silver hair, a weathered face, a brown work apron, and calm eyes that seemed to understand people. The two sat outside the workshop as orange leaves drifted through the air. Daniel sighed. "I want to start my business," he said, "but the timing never feels right." Samuel smiled. "When do you think the perfect time will arrive?" Daniel opened his mouth, then stopped. He had no answer. Samuel pointed toward a nearby apple tree. Several apples hung from its branches. Others lay on the ground. "Years ago," Samuel said, "I planted that tree. It wasn't the perfect season. I didn't know everything. I made mistakes. But if I had waited for perfect conditions, there would be no tree today." Daniel looked at the tree quietly. The words stayed with him. That evening, rain tapped against his window. The room felt silent. Daniel thought about the last 4 years. The opportunities missed. The ideas abandoned. The progress never made. For the first time, he realized something painful. Waiting had not protected him. Waiting had cost him. The next morning, Daniel made a decision. Not a dramatic one. Not a perfect one. Just a small step. He cleaned a corner of an old shed. He gathered his tools, and he built a simple wooden table. The result was far from perfect. The edges weren't flawless. The finish wasn't smooth. But it existed. Something finally existed. Days later, he showed the table to neighbors. Most were polite. A few were interested. One person bought it. The payment wasn't much. But Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. Momentum. For the first time, he was moving. Not imagining. Not planning endlessly. Moving. Weeks passed. Daniel continued building. Some projects failed. One cabinet collapsed during assembly. A customer changed their mind. Another complained about a mistake. Daniel felt discouraged. More than once, he considered quitting. But each problem taught him something new. Each mistake made him better. Each setback revealed a lesson no amount of waiting could have provided. If this story speaks to you, consider leaving a like so more people can discover it. Winter arrived. Snow covered the hills. Daniel worked late into the evenings. A lantern glowed beside his workbench. His hands grew stronger. His skills improved. His confidence slowly followed. Not because fear disappeared, but because action was stronger than fear. Months later, Daniel looked around the workshop. New orders filled the shelves. Customers returned. People recommended his work. The business was still small, but it was real. One afternoon, Samuel visited again. The old craftsman smiled as he looked around. "You found the perfect time after all." Daniel laughed. "No, I discovered it never existed." Samuel nodded. "Exactly." The two stood quietly among the finished furniture. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Dust floated through golden beams of light. Daniel thought about who he had been. The man who waited. The man who believed certainty would arrive first. Now he understood something different. Clarity comes from action. Confidence comes from action. Experience comes from action. Growth comes from action. Very few people feel fully ready. Most successful people simply begin. They take one small step, then another, then another. The future they want is built while moving forward, not while standing still. Years later, Daniel's workshop became one of the most respected in the region. Visitors admired the furniture. But Daniel always remembered the real achievement. It wasn't the business. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the recognition. It was the day he stopped waiting. The day he accepted that imperfect action was better than endless preparation. Because every dream has a cost. And one of the highest costs is waiting forever for the perfect time. The perfect time rarely arrives. But the next small step is always available. And sometimes that step changes everything. Which lesson stood out most to you? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoy stories about wisdom, growth, success, money, relationships, and life lessons, subscribe to VaultWave. Every wave brings something new.